our second speaker tonight, let's try that again, is Kudadad, who will be making his third speech in the professional speaker manual. The objective is, the name of the project is the sales training speech, in which the objective is to tell a sales audience how to sell a product by using a planned presentation and use entertaining stories and dynamic examples of sales situations. The title of his speech is Business is a Sport of Growth, and it will run approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Keep it up.
Thanks. Thank you. I know you all like Hollywood, yes, Hollywood movies. I don't know how many of you are fond of Bollywood movies, but for me, Hollywood is a sort of a university, might be a. Whenever I look to watch Hollywood movies, I always look at it as a class. Why I look at it as a class? Because I know that each movie, there are multi-millions investment in the movies, and the people who write them. If somebody wants to invest few $1 million for some idea, the idea must be not an ordinary idea. It must be very profound idea. And the people who will work for the idea to present must be the best of them. So that's why I think this is one of the reasons, the heavy investment in the Hollywood for the movies, that we find the best actors, the best writers there. So whenever I watch them, I just look from this perspective of the heavy investment in the movie. So whenever I watch the movies, I not only judge the writers, the dialogues, the scenes, the characters, but also the actors when they act. So I always ask myself, why these people wants to be actor in the first place? And most important question, other important question than that is, why the people who watch the movies, they apply the actors for pretending to be someone else rather than themselves. Why is it so important for them? So let me ask this question from you. Why you applaud an actor when they pretend to be someone else? Do you have any answer? No?
Well, first of all, that's really what their objective is to transform themselves into whatever their character is. That character may be well known to the viewing public or may not. So the actor has to do a lot of research and studying in order to make sure that they look like and act like the person that they're pretending to be.
Yeah, I was just fencing the same sort of the answers, because everybody's answer might be very different. But what I was thinking from fencing the answers, because I'm one of the audience, just like you, I watch the movies. So my thinking was that people might watch movies or like actors because they want to see their role models in them. So we see, especially the youth, they watch movies and they try to imitate the actors, the way they speak, the way they wear. Sometimes they even imitate their lives. You might see some fake Spider-Mans trying to climb up the buildings. This is a sort of the imitations that the people like. So it really inspired the people. Whatever the answer is, the thing is, the actors, they like to act because they want to be the best. And the people want to watch the movies because they want to be the best, in a way. They want to improve their life. So movies are business, and people are the customers. And we watch the movies just because we want to grow. And to me, it's why I made my title, Business is the Sport of the Growth. So the salesmen, to me, the salesmen are just like actors. If there is a good actor, the people will buy their movies if there is a good acting. If they do not act very good, the people do not buy them. They will not watch them. Same is about the salesman. A salesman, to me, why a person wants at the first place to be a salesman? Why he wants to be? Because a salesman sells the dreams to the people, things that the people want to need. And a salesman look to each sales as a trophy, as a victory. I think it might not be very well defined unless I share some stories to you. And it might be very boring if I start to teach you the salesmanship. So rather than, I really like the people who are, we call them street smart. And I share their stories because I learned from them. They inspired me and they influenced me much than any teacher in my whole life. So I present to you two types of the street smarts, and all the formulas that you learn in the books or you might learn in the class, they might demonstrate much better than them. One of the street smart, I was calling him a walking eBay. So you are familiar with the eBay, how the eBay works, and it's just about the business and the auctions, and you can buy anything. Anybody can sell over the eBay, and anybody can buy. So it's just, and I call these persons a walking eBay. Why I call him a walking eBay? Because if you are living in the same place that this guy was living, if you had anything to sell, or you had anything to buy, or you had any issue to resolve with somebody else, or you needed some information about some person, or even if you needed to meet some officials in the local, or even you wanted to make some documentations, a government documentation, official documentation, the first thing that would come in your mind was this person. If you were asking, if you had some problem and you were asking from the people how to solve, they would recommend him to go to this person. And from my childhood, since my childhood, I was asking myself how this person could do all these things, and how he began and how he reached to this position. So he started his business with a grocery store, and his grocery store was an instant success. When I say instant success, means overnight success. When he opened his grocery store, the people were coming from far to his store, and the reason was his talkative nature, and he was always using the humor. So people liked to talk to him and listen to him. They were enjoying his company. So people were coming from very far. But soon he sold his grocery store, because now he was no need of the grocery store. He himself was a person that was making link between the sellers and buyers. Anybody wants to sell his house, car, anything, he was coming to him. And anybody who wants to buy this stuff was coming to him. So he was not in need of any grocery store. So it's why I was telling him a walking eBay. So why this person could be so successful in the selling, and he was selling everything. I would tell his stories, how he was making the deals, so you will learn how he was successful in his business. So whatever he was selling, he was never selling unless he was not demonstrating. If you had to buy a car, he would not make the deal in his house on the street. He was going to an auto mechanic, in front of the auto mechanic, and he was in the auto mechanic workshop, and he was saying, okay, here is a car, and what's your judgment about the car? Let's practice it. So in this way, he was just making the customer to make sure that the price he's paying for the car is the best. The deal is the best. If he was making a deal about the house, he was inviting a real estate agent to assess the whole house and make his own perception independently. There was no link with the real estate agent. So the people who was buying the real estate, they would the customer would convince that this is the best deal that he got with the money. And he was always there, ready. If somebody was changing his mind, he was always there to buy them. So this was not only the type of the demonstration, but also if you was lack of money, if you had not money and you are still wanted to make deal, he was not letting the deal down. He was putting some money from his own pocket. So later on you could pay him at your ease. And if you had something to sell and you had no customer, he was ready here to pay you the cash and get your items to later on he could sell to somebody else. So he was providing solution to anybody who was selling, he was ready to buy, and everything was for sale except himself and his family, for sure. But everything else, if you could see something on him and you was showing interest that I want to buy, he was ready. So he was a sort of the person that anybody could go and find a solution. From the family problem to your documentation, to your education, to finding information for the local people, for any sort. So he was a person who was making people to trust him, providing solution to them, and letting not any deal down. So if you was going to him, for sure, he would make you a deal that make please both the seller and the customer. So he was a sort of the walking even. I think you will not find this sort of the people in the classes, yes? So it's a sort of the person that I call smartest. Another kind of the smart, street smart, that I call it manufacturer seller, because he was in business of manufacturing. He was manufacturing shoes. At the same time, he was selling. But his way of selling shoes was very unique from the other people. Because in the business of making shoes, you need people who was really best. You need a craftsman who are very best at their crafts. And these sort of the people are in charge. And they are, so all the manufacturers, they compete for the best craftsmen. And it's really hard to retain, to get them, and they retain. So this is the most difficult part of it. But in order to succeed in the business, in the local business or the shoe making, you needed the best design. You need to introduce new designs into the market, and you needed the names of the best craftsmen. So this one was the best design. So he was a reverse engineer. He was anything, come up with any brands, new designs that were coming into the market. He was just opening them and making their designs, just copying their designs, or looking to the magazines, to the movies, to the newspapers. He was getting his idea. So this was not any problem for him making new designs, but the main problem was how to get the best craftsmen and how to retain them. So his way was very unique to attract this craftsman. He was wearing very exotic things, and he has a madness, a craziness for collecting exotic things. So if you are going to his office or to his shop, you would see very exotic things, from the tech things to very ordinary household things. So anybody who would come and appreciate anything on him and say, okay, this is very exotic things, I like this, and say, do you want this? You could get it. So anybody, so he was attracting a lot of people who had interest in exotic things, and especially for the tech things. And anybody who was showing interest in anything, he was just offering to them. If you had money, it's okay. If you didn't have money, you can just get it and pay it later. So he was offering the workers, the craftsmen, in the reverse of anything that they had interest in them. It was his way. But more important than this was his way of anybody who had ambition in the business, who wanted to set up a new business but had no money. He was giving them money, material, or providing the people anybody who had ambition for the distribution, for the salesmanship. So he was ready for it. If you want work, if you want to be, you have your own business, or you wanted to something you wanted to have something, but you didn't have the money. So he was always there for it. So these two types of the people I saw, and they inspired me. And I said, okay, I read the 5-step formula in the book and also in the manual, and I was looking into the procedures, and I said, okay, there is no demonstrations. Yes, there are explanations, they are good. But when you go to the field and you want to apply, you will not find these formulas coming to your mind. But if you are living with this sort of the people, and you know how they work with the people, and how they attract their trust, and how they make the deals, how they find the prospects, how they get their trust, and how they make them to go for a deal and not let any deal down, you would learn these things and you could easily apply without getting any sort of the form. So this is the type of the things that I just wanted to share, okay, how to go for the salesmanship. But before ending, these are not just enough. I want to say, okay, in order to succeed in the salesmanship, another important thing is diversification of personality. To me, a salesman should be a very diversified person, because the customers are diversified. You will not find the same sort of the customer everywhere. How could you know that the customers are very diversified? If you just go to check online for any product, and you will find from the rating of the people and from the reviews, you will find immediately three kind of the people. The people who are, I call them review writers, are the risk takers. The people who go and they want to buy the products that nobody else has bought it, or the sort of the products as soon as come to the market, they go and they take the risk and they write the reviewer. They are the key. They are few, but they are the key people, because their reviews will determine other part of the people whether they will buy this product or not. And the majority of the people who are, I call them 5-star rating readers. The people, when you want to buy a product, you go just and you will read first few reviews, and mostly first reviews are 5-star reviews, and you would make, if you have suspicion, then you go to the ratings, to the negative ratings, then you would make your mind, either you have to buy or not. These are, I call them, these are the majority of the people. But some people are really, really highly cautious people. They would not go to read the 5-star first. They would go to the negative ratings. They would go first and say, okay, what are the negative points of the products, instead of looking to the positive. They are the few people, but they are as important as the risk takers. These are two very different people. One is risk takers, one of the sort of the people who are really cautious, very different. So a salesman needs to pull himself to diversify for these two sort of the people, risk takers and for the people who are really, really cautious, very different. So I think the salesmanship is just like acting. In acting, you have not to be yourself. You pretend to be somebody else, and you need to be very good at this. The same thing is for a salesman. He has not to be himself. He needs to be somebody else. And he could do this role very well, he could sell. Otherwise, he would be a failure. Thank you very much.
Hey, where's our little slips
If you
for
put it up, I was
writing
just
comments to the
asking,
speakers?
do we have the comment?
Yeah.